Hi, and welcome to Conversations to Connect. I'm Fenella Hawksley, and this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the Campaign to End Loneliness. Social isolation and loneliness are widespread and can have a huge impact on health, happiness, and overall well-being. All people of all ages need connections that matter, and on this podcast we will be hosting conversations to share insights, knowledge, and research to inspire change and to help people feel more connected. On today's episode, I'm joined by Hannah Campbell and Bansal, the founders of 112, a creative agency that works with fashion, music, and brand partnerships in the UK. Hannah and G founded 112 with an important mission. As Black and brown female founders, they have a vision to ensure marketing is more inclusive and representative of various people's lifestyles and cultures. They aim to ensure that future generations of all backgrounds see themselves and their stories represented authentically. Having both experienced loneliness and marginalisation in the workplace, they know firsthand the importance of creating safe, inclusive and diverse communities where everyone can feel like they belong. Thank you, G and Hannah, so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
How are you both today?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I'm hot. I'm feeling quite hot, yeah. Because I walked up and there was like a fly on my lip gloss, a fly coming into my eye. It's all happening.
Had a lot happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel I was actually pretty cold, to be fair.
Oh yeah, I know it's May, but it's
because the weather's just. I don't know. Why do we always talk about the weather when it comes to
Yeah,
things?
me and Hannah were talking about it as well. We were like, I didn't know. It's hard to know what to wear as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You both look great.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You too.
So I wanted to talk to you first of all, Hannah, about your experience before work. So when you first went to university, because I know that you were the first in your family to go to university.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
Yeah, so being the first to go to uni was challenging because I was making decisions by myself about everything. And I mean absolutely everything. So what uni to go to, what to study, where to live, like accommodation wise. What do? Do you stay in halls? Do you rent a private, I knew nothing. And my family didn't. Nobody had ever been to uni from my family, even extended family. So I was like the first. So I had to kind of muddle through and work it out. So that speaking about loneliness was a bit of a kind of lonely experience because a lot of my friends, they had been, their parents had been to university or sisters or brothers and that kind of thing. So they kind of knew what to do, what to expect. But I didn't. So it was strange.
And I know you said that there's kind of adultification of young black women.
I think so. I think young black men as well. I mean, that speaks to wider issues around like police brutality of young children and black children, that kind of thing. Because I do think there's an adultification of young black people. But I think it's twofold, right? So I think it is sometimes in the home, and this is probably for other ethnicities as well, not just black people, but I can speak from my own experiences. Sometimes in the home, if you are the first in your family to do certain things, you have to grow up quickly. And I found myself growing up quickly.
Because
in
you're
a lot of
almost leading your parents.
Yeah. And they wouldn't, I was the kind of adult decision maker for a lot of things that they just didn't have a clue about. So there's that side of things. And then obviously socially as well, I think sometimes...
Did they grow up in the UK?
Yeah, so my mum was born here, first generation. And then my dad was born in Jamaica, but came when he was like 9. So they pretty much did grow up here. But and when I speak to them about things like uni, my dad is the most intelligent person I've ever met, by the way. But they were just like, we were just never given the option. We didn't know it was a thing. We just stopped. We finished school at 16, and then just get on with it. So there was a lack of knowledge that wasn't for like a lack of ability. It was just they didn't know that was an option, kind of thing. So yeah, that was.
So how was that? Choosing what university to go to, even being at university, because it's a difficult time. First year is difficult for most people, but not having anyone that you can share that experience with in your family. How was that?
I mean, it was very challenging. I'm saying that word a lot, but it was. I think so I ended up coming back to London. I went to university in Birmingham, and I came back pretty much every weekend because I didn't know how. I just didn't know how to kind of even not make friends, but just kind of do this university life. I just didn't understand it, and my roots were at home. So I would study Monday through to Friday. After my last lesson, have my suitcase packed and jump in the car or on the train and come back down to London, and then travel back on Monday morning. That's how much I kind of didn't enjoy the university experience.
Literally Monday.
For 3 years?
No, when I dropped out. So I dropped out in the second year, but I think it is because of loneliness, because there was a lack of... So firstly, it was two things. My parents couldn't afford to support me, and my degree was law and French. It was a very, very like heavy degree. And we weren't allowed to work more than like 10 hours. That was the rules of the degree. But I couldn't I just couldn't pay for my rent, food, everything. And the stress was just becoming too much. And so I made a decision to move back to London and study in London. So I took like a year or so out and then studied in London. But I think that's all part of, it's all part of the same story, right? It's all part of the same thing. I think if my parents were better equipped to have supported me at uni, not their fault, but I think that where other people's parents could have supported them because they knew their child was going and that was what was happening. But I think, I was leading it so much that they just didn't have a clue what was going on.
It's relying on you to like have all the information and tell them
and
what
at
you're
19,
doing, and
like,
you don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how to like manage cash flow.
Oh my gosh,
I just don't know.
And you're never taught that in school.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing.
And G, for you, it was different because I know you said that in their Asian community there's quite a push to follow like an academic route, and you wanted to do something creative.
I think I feel like in an Asian like household, like you're taught to like do something that's gonna like be like you're gonna be successful in. So it's like tends to be like accounting, doctors, like law, stuff like that. But I didn't really like any of that. But then again, because me and my sister were the first ones doing A levels, even like within our family, like I went for things like business I always wanted to do, but I did stuff like English lit, history and psychology. I would never have done English lit and history if like I thought about it now, because that's not me. I would have done something more creative, but because like my parents were like, oh, I think you should do like, I think it's good to have like, you know, English and stuff like that, but really like it wasn't a bit of me. So I feel like it's just like now knowing that, like I would like tell my little cousins like, make sure you do something you want to do. Like even at uni I probably would have done something more creative like graphic design, but because I'd be the first one in like my whole wider family to do something like that, I feel like it wasn't like the proper thing to do or like a right thing to do. Like it's like a waste of money to do like a course like that where you can just do that on the side. So yeah, I feel like there was pressure to like follow like what's always been done.
So what did you both study? Law?
I did law and French, and then when I dropped out I then did French and German, and that was my degree, and then I did a law conversion course afterwards. So mine's more simple than that. It's just business studies and marketing.
So then how did you start working in more creative roles, Hannah?
My career journey is, if you've got all day, if you've got all day, I can go. I'll make it as succinct as possible. When I dropped out of uni, I started my own business. It was a fashion events business. It was great. It was doing so well. Once again, first to my family, cash flow, didn't know what I was doing. An investor loved my business and said, right, I'm going to invest. But he was like, I'm going to invest. It's going to come, but you can spend money. I'm going to invest. So I put on this big show at Bush Hall in Shepherd's Bush, had all these big brands down, all these models and all this kind of stuff.
Wow, so young.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know. Just naivety is a great thing.
Yeah,
right?
It's true.
So did this big show, and then afterwards, like the lighting company needed paying like $3,000, and I couldn't afford it, and the investor dropped out. So this is the start of my career. So I decided, I said to myself, okay, what can I do to make money really quickly? I can go into sales. And so my career started in sales. I worked for an estate agent, actually in like South London, in like Brixton, that kind of area. And then so I was an estate agent, and then I moved more into like corporate sales. So I worked in kind of like fintech, and I studied my way across to marketing. So I actually came into marketing from being a sales professional, and then kind of like being involved in the pitches, being involved in the creative elements of things, and then kind of just going into marketing that way. But it's been quite a journey.
What about you, G?
I feel like mine, again, it was like more like straightforward. It was just like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do after uni, and then I just, I saw like an internship, a marketing internship, so I was like, okay, cool, like let me do that. It's at an agency. That was for like 3 months, and then I just, again, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then like I found this role, and it was like, oh, are you inquisitive? Like, do you like looking into stuff? Are you always asking questions? I was like, yeah, that's actually me. And then I applied for that, and then that was like in a marketing agency, and then literally from there I've just been in agencies. But yeah, mine's always actually been in like marketing and media, but it was more like insight and strategy. So it was like more like numbers and data focus rather than like being like the creative side of it still. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you both about workplace belonging,
Yeah.
because I know that this is something that both of you discussed being an issue and feeling kind of marginalised at work. So, G, I know you had an experience at a company in the UK where you felt like you didn't belong. Can you speak a bit about that and how that made you feel, and why that culture, or what it was in that culture that made you feel that way?
So before I started, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like my friend worked there. She was like, oh gee, like there's this job, like, you know, you should work here. So got through, blah blah blah, and then joined the team. And the team was so nice. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so lucky. It was like so nice. It was probably like, I think there was like 5 of us, but we got on so well. And then one by one, they were all like, oh, I'm leaving. And then the other one was like, I'm leaving. And then my line manager was like, I'm leaving. And I was like, okay, cool, wow. And so then it was just me and the head of the team who was never used to sit with us. So from then I was like starting to get a bit stressed out. Like, I've just started a new job. All these people are leaving. So does that mean I'm going to have to be doing everything? So already now I'm starting to feel like, And then the head of the team, like I said, she never used to sit there, never used to like be involved with us. So it was just now it's just me. And then and then it became like, we kind of joined another team, like a wider team, and that's where it became like a thing of, it was so toxic, and I just didn't feel like I belonged at all. It was like, there was just, I feel like my voice was never heard. Like I remember like one instance where we were doing it was like what are those things called when you do like a fun session, like it's meant to be like a fun like
team
building. Yeah, like a team building day, like, and there was like a one whole day of it. And I remember like we were in little teams, and then we had to come up with like creative ideas. So I like gave my idea, and like no one like acknowledged it. They just like looked past me, and I was like, okay, cool, like maybe it was really rubbish. I started doubting myself, like okay, maybe it was a really rubbish idea, like just don't speak up now. And then, let me not say her name, someone else said it, the same thing that I did. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. And I was just like, what? And I was like, after that I was like, I'm not even saying anything, I'm not even getting involved. And from then I didn't, and I used to just go, like we had this thing called the loft. I used to just like sit away from my team and sit in the loft by myself, and I would just talk to like the models and stuff, because they were more relatable. I don't know, I just found them more relatable and normal, versus the people that were just in my team. And my manager used to be like, oh, you know, my manager's saying that like you need to show your face more, but I just didn't feel comfortable sitting there with all of them.
Why do you think that culture made you feel like
it just wasn't very friendly? And it was very like, it wasn't like we're working in a team together. It was very like, if you do a little thing wrong, then you've done this. It's not like, okay, let's decide how to do this together. And people just leaving so often. And I think working in fashion is very toxic as well. Like a lot of people said that, like, yeah, it was a very like toxic culture, especially in like some of the fashion teams as well, I feel like. But yeah, the culture, I think it's from the top down, just wasn't a good culture. Like from the head of the team was terrible. So many people in like my second team that I was in left as well. So many of them were on like what's that thing called?
PTSD?
No, PEP, like the performance.
Yeah, performance reviews, yeah. So many people on performance reviews. I got put on a performance review as well, which I've never had in my life. Like I would say that I do good work. So I was like, again, doubting myself. I was like, oh my gosh, it made me feel really terrible. And then when I spoke to someone, I realised that there's about 4 of us in that team that are on it, and I know those people are smart. So I'm like, if we're all on it, she's the problem, it's not us. But yeah, it's just things like that, and then that just made me leave. And
how did that make you feel? Did you feel like lonely in the workplace?
Very lonely, because even my manager, like, I felt like she threw me under the bus a little bit. So from then, I didn't even feel like I could trust her. So there was really like no one to talk to. Like HR, they're never really that great, I found, in my experience.
And was there someone you could talk to explain that problem? Or
I felt like anywhere I went, nothing would happen, and they would always just end up sticking up for like them.
I read this study that said if you have a best friend at work who you can like tell all your problems to and basically be yourself, not in a work environment, then people perform better, stay longer in the job, and have less like sick days and mental health problems. So it's like
it does make sense. So I did have a friend there, like the one, like it was helpful to have her, but it also didn't help the fact that she's not in my team, and all this stuff that I'm going through, like there's nothing she can do to help me either. It was just a horrible environment. Like that whole situation that happened made me leave, like when I did. Otherwise I probably wouldn't have. But yeah, like the actual team, it was like quite toxic, and like even the head of the team, so many people left because of her. And yeah, when she actually left as well, when we kind of all left, and she actually said, like, you know, I'm going to a solo role now, so I'm not going to be working with people under me, because I think she even knew that she didn't have a good management style.
So how do you think you change that? It starts from the top and from management, creating like an inclusive space where people can share if there's a problem.
I think HR need to actually like talk to people and take their feedback on, not just, and if there's like difficult things or things they don't want to hear or they might not like to hear, they have to address it. Because I feel like that's a big thing. Like even when like Black Lives Matter happened, the whole campaign, George Floyd, like people of colour, like black people, were upset by that because they're all their models, so many of their models, especially the male models, are like, so many of them are black. So it's like, why are you like, you're doing all this but then you're not even speaking up about it or being there for them or being there for employees?
Do you feel like there was a problem, like you've just mentioned, like in externally appearing diverse but actually internally not being that? And was that linked to why you felt like that you didn't belong?
I think so, most probably. Like I feel like it was again the case of like junior staff were like of colour, but then as you go up it just becomes more and more white, more and more middle class, and at the top it was just all men, and they were like quite old men, and they don't really even I used to work in the insight team, we'd give them insights but they wouldn't do anything off the back of those insights. So it's like you're not actually listening to what the people are saying, you're just taking what you want, spinning it, and then doing what you want, and you're just like spinning the insights to like feed your narrative of what you want and back up what you want to do anyway.
So is that why you felt like you weren't heard as well?
Yeah, 100%, because with the insights they just never used to listen. Like even when they released the Asian line of like Indian wear, they got the names wrong, and they got like,
really,
the PR went crazy online. Everyone was like, they spelled it wrong, they didn't call it this, they didn't call it that. But like if only they asked like the insight team to do some research, I'm Indian, set up a focus group, like there's so many simple things they could do, but they just didn't ever. Even with Black Lives Matter they got in trouble for that because employees were like, you're not doing enough, like you're not like giving us the support that we need, it's fine for you to have models but you don't actually care about us.
It's kind of it sounds also a bit like when you were both talking about working in an agency, that on the surface level, if you look at all the employees it looks like it's a really diverse place to work, but when it comes to like decision making, boardrooms, actually like executing campaigns, decisions aren't. It's not a diverse.
It's not diverse
and
at all.
I think when we talk about why we set 112 agency up, that is a big factor. Because actually when we were both in the senior team of this agency, and then the rest of the people who were non-white were all junior, as in not decision makers at all. But then even us being in the senior team, we were not able to actually have our decisions heard, our opinions heard. When we were speaking about certain things and saying, we need to implement this, diversity needs to be taken more seriously, it's not a tick box exercise, it's, we just were never heard.
It's true.
And so we were like, I was like, what is the problem? It's like the right people aren't decision makers, and the quickest way to be decision makers was to set up by ourselves. That was the quickest way. Just to, of course, the client is ultimately the decision maker, but we'll be more in a position to be able to guide them about how to do campaigns that are more inclusive.
And that's what. So I remember you both saying that because you weren't able to make decisions, that would lead to campaigns you can't be proud of because they're not actually authentic. How did that make you feel when you were part of campaigns that you felt didn't actually authentically represent the cultures they were meant to be?
Yeah. Do you know what? It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, that's the word that came to my mind as well.
It was embarrassing to be to have my name associated with these campaigns because I could see in the back end how these things came about. So I would say, firstly, very embarrassing. Secondly, it was just so disappointing and disheartening. And actually, it was like, is anything going to change? Because this was post 2020 when everyone was, having their black squares and this kind of thing. So just a year or so later, it's still, people still not addressing the issues. People still treating diversity as a tick box. It makes you, and then you start to question, am I the one who's got a problem here? Like, am I seeing something wrong? And then once again, that is isolating. And it does bring you back to being lonely in the workplace because it's like, well, actually, like, if I keep on saying this and nobody's listening to me, then I'm very alone in this right now,
It's true.
And then that's actually how G and I went for coffee once, and then we realised we had the same views, and luckily we had each other kind of thing. So actually we were able to, when we saw certain campaigns or certain messages going out about that, the diversity efforts, we could share with each other. And
you were both working at the same agency?
Both in the senior team. I think I felt like you did, like when there was campaigns and things happening, like you feel embarrassed, but then also like because your opinion's not being heard, then I just pull away because I'm just like, there's literally no point in my effort and energy going into this because they're not going to hear it. they just remove it from the deck, or they just don't take the idea to client, so there's no point. So then, because when you start a job, like, you're excited, you want to like get involved. We were in the senior team, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's a black woman in the senior team. I was excited to see that. I was like, okay, cool, it's actually going to be inclusive. But when I got there, it wasn't. And same thing, like, our ideas weren't being heard. We told them to like start getting into music, they didn't want to listen. It just makes you pull away and not actually give your ideas. And then we just met and we realised that we're not crazy, because it makes you think, like, are you being extra? Like, do you make you think that sometimes, like, am I just being extra? Like, am I exaggerating this whole thing? But then when you speak to someone else about it and you're like, no, like, it's valid, like, we both feel like that.
Yeah, and I think the loneliness as well doesn't just come from the actual work that we're doing. It's the environment and the culture of a place.
Yeah.
So obviously it can't be necessarily avoided at times, and that's a bigger thing around, you know, more diverse talent moving into marketing. That has to drip through over time, right? But if you're in an office or in a team and everybody's kind of into the same music, live in the same area, they kind of maybe have the same makeup tips or hair tips, and they're talking about, like, you know, and you can't identify that. So you're sitting at a table full of women who can all kind of share experiences and have conversations, and you're the only one who doesn't have the same hair as them. Obviously, they're not being malicious at all, and they're not being mean. Not at all. That's not the intention. But it just makes you very isolated. And I think that a lot of my experiences have been that more than anything else. Since being in the creative industry, and especially working in marketing, I've always been the only black person. So and it's always been like people who have similar music tastes do the same things on the weekend, you know, and that kind of thing. So that is very isolating, because you just, normal workplace kind of conversation, you could go a whole day and not really speak to anyone, because actually the stuff they're talking about, you can't even add anything to that, because you can't relate. You know?
And then I guess that makes it even harder to join in, because and then you feel like you have to pull away, like you said.
You can't, like, that's the same thing actually. That's what it was at ASOS, like, couldn't put it into words, but it was that, like, not being able to, like, get involved in the conversation, and, like, it was just quite bitchy, and, like, it's not like you're, like, friends and you can just chat about stuff and they'll get it, like, they wouldn't. So I'd go down and speak to the IT people, because I'd get on more with them, like, you could just have normal conversations, laugh, joke around, but I could never do that with my own team. And it's the same at, like, the place that we were at together. Like, it was just nothing malicious. Like, the people were lovely, but it's just a certain type of...
Do you think that this is a problem of people just hiring the same type of person
in
the team?
100%.
Like, basically a lack of diversity and unconscious bias. You hire the same kind of person again and again, because they remind you of
unless you
yourself.
realise that, okay, we need to tick a box now because it's starting to look a certain way, let's now do this. Because I overheard someone at that company being like, okay, we need to make sure that we hire someone diverse now. And so when they did kind of interview someone, they were like, oh, when she's diverse, so it's really great. But it's like that's not, literally, like, tick, that's a plus, but it shouldn't be like that.
And also the point of diverse teams isn't just, like you said, for a tick box exercise or to appear good on your diversity and inclusion workplace chart. It's also to create meaningful campaigns that are diverse and representative of all people in the UK. And if you just have one certain type of person, that will leak through in your work.
And even if the work is trying to be diverse, it will always be wrong. Because there's an inauthenticity to it that unless you come from a place, you wouldn't understand it. You know, like, so when I say to G, like, if I was ever asked to do, like, a Diwali campaign, I would not have a clue where to start, and I wouldn't even pretend like I do. And I think sometimes what happens is the agency will be like, we can do a Diwali campaign. No, you can't do a Diwali campaign.
You can't, because even if, like, you research and everyone has the best intentions, like, it's difficult, because even when I've searched Diwali, it's not what it actually is on Google. So, like, there's Hindu Diwali, there's Sikh Diwali, and people wouldn't necessarily know that. So you need the lived experience. You really do. It's kind of impossible to do it without. There's little nuances that other people won't know, that you can add, like, a flavour or a little touch to a campaign that someone else wouldn't be able to bring.
So I wanted to talk to you about how you decided to set up 112 and why. I guess part of it is wanting to kind of be in more senior positions where you can actually make real decisions and impact campaigns in a positive way. But what was it that led you to just say, okay, we're doing this?
What was it?
I think it was that. I think it was, like, starting to get fed up and knowing, for me, that my voice isn't being heard. I'm not actually getting to do the creative ideas that I wanted to and, like, input into it. And then, like, even things like wanting to sort of, like, them to branch out into music, like, they'll be like, yeah, we'll do that, but then it would never actually happen. And I realised same thing happening. Like, I used to get bored of my 9 to 5s like quite quickly because of that reason. And then when me and Hannah started chatting over a coffee, like, we decided we both have the same views. And then, I don't know, why we were just kind of like, okay, let's do this together.
Yeah. I think for me, it's that I was just like, there's a gap here for authenticity. And I know there's like, there are competitors, there are other agencies who do kind of what we do. But at the same time, it's like, people don't have the same unique viewpoints that we do. Like, we can still add value to marketing, to advertising in the UK. So for me, I was like, well, there's a gap here. We can make money doing this, which is important. And yeah, the whole thing about being decision makers and actually having campaigns that we've had input in go out there, as opposed to be stuck on a pitch deck, you know, or not even make it to the pitch deck, you know. So,
actually being able to do like pitches like with your own ideas actually featured in it feels nice, because it's like for the first time really for me.
Same.
And like being able to say no to things we don't want to do and yes to things that we want to do, like it feels really good.
And I know you both also mentioned that you really want to champion and like authentically represent future generations in a positive way, and that we spoke a bit about sometimes problems with like reinforcing negative stereotypes with brand campaigns. Can you speak a bit about that and how that happens?
I feel like, especially for like British Asian like stereotypes and stuff like that, like you always see like, if there's like a show or there's like an advert, it will always be like they'll have an accent, but that's not always the case. Like, not everyone has an accent. Like, my parents don't have an accent, so it's like that. Or like they always own a shop, but again, like that's, again, I can't relate because no one in my family like has a corner shop. So I think it's like, reinforcing like the different things that our group of people do, not just like the ones that everyone focuses on and is a go-to. It's just nice to see that. And we do other things, like we don't just like play Bhangra and eat pakoras and stuff like that. We just like we do everything that everyone else does. So it's like, why can't we just be seen doing that sometimes? Why is it like in a corner shop and it's an uncle? Like, I just don't. It's just embarrassing. It's always embarrassing. That's what I would want to change.
What about you, Hannah?
I think same but different. So the negative stereotypes, I think, more plays to like things like single black motherhood. When you see a lot of adverts, a lot of the time you don't see like a black family. You see like a single mum and her kids. They're happy going to Asda or whatever it is that they're doing. Or you see like a black man and a white woman, but you never see, I can't say never, but you very, very rarely see, proportional to how common black families are. You don't see that represented on TV. That's the first thing. And the second thing as well is, it speaks more to, this is more of a personal thing to me, but it speaks more to colorism. So oftentimes, if a black woman is depicted, she's of a lighter hue, and that's problematic for young generations coming through, because obviously there's lots of black kids still being born, right? But because it's not like the proximity to whiteness is a lot further away if you're dark skinned, so it's less accepted and it's less seen. And I think that's problematic because if you're not deemed as like desirable or even like good enough to be like a part of a marketing campaign, for example, that has negative effects on how you see yourself. And so for young people, they need to see, the young people coming up, they need to see themselves in things represented properly.
And I think also like that links to loneliness. Like if you are watching TV, you're watching ads, you're watching like music videos, and you never really see yourself like depicted on TV, then that you can feel isolated and alone because you're like, no one looks like me, or you don't have a role model to look up to.
And role models are super important. And I actually remember, because growing up there was a lot of TV that I didn't watch, and like I remember like my husband saying to me, you didn't watch this stuff, and I'm like, I didn't see myself depicted on these things. Actually, that reinforced that I'm not deemed to be attractive, so why would I spend my free time watching something like that? So it does have an effect. But I think now things are changing, and hopefully more people like myself and G, there's lots of people around now who are having these conversations and trying their best to kind of change things so that the future generations can
And what's the result of you guys seeing a piece of work that you feel really proud about and like has authentically represented the communities that you want to represent? Have you got examples of that?
I think one of the ones is like the swimwear company that we worked with. Working with like diverse models. So we worked with a swimwear company, and it's a solo founder. And she's like a really beautiful lady. She's white, she's slim, but she said herself to us that like all her assets and all her imagery online is all of her in her swimsuit. But she wants to be able to represent all women. And so we came to her and said, rather than just working with young women, why not work with women of different life stages? So why not work with women who've had kids and maybe like they're not as confident with their bodies, and you know, different sizes as well, because the swimwear range goes up to like, you know, it's very, very inclusive in the sizing. So we're like, let's do this kind of thing. So that was really, we were really proud of that one, because it was like, you've taken a brand who's literally like a slim white woman, like perfect kind of thing, to like, I'm not saying the other people aren't perfect, but what's deemed as perfect, right? And it's now like everyone, and it's just opened up the swimwear company to lots of people who maybe wouldn't have seen it. And when people tried it, they were like, wow, it's so flattering. But it's only seeing somebody else who looked like them, who had body shape like them, or was the same age as them, wearing the swimsuit, that they were like, I can give this a try too. So yeah, I think that was a very proud moment.
Yeah, it was nice to see it. Like one of the, like my favourite pictures from that campaign is like one of ours. Not being biased, but the one with Rosette.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like even Romy uses that quite a lot, and it's a very nice one.
Yeah, that one. So it's a dark skinned black woman, and she has braids, and you just don't often see that depiction of like a natural hairstyle, a dark skinned woman living her best life. She was like in Morocco or something in a swimsuit. But that's super important, because brands just don't use models like that, you know. So yeah, that was good.
And I feel like, especially in sustainability, it can be like quite white,
yes,
and middle class.
I feel it's sustainable
like,
swimwear brand.
Yeah, it's sustainable. So like having someone like Rosette, it shows that like there's other groups of people that are like passionate about sustainability and doing their bit for it, but they're doing it in their own way. Yeah. So it's nice. It just makes it more accessible again.
Yeah. Because I guess the positive side of like brand campaigns and advertising is like inspiring people.
Yeah.
But if it's used in a negative way, like, oh, you have to look like this, you have to be young, you have to be skinny, you have to be X, then it's quite negative.
Yeah.
But whereas if it's like promoting body positivity, sustainability, that's kind of using campaigns to promote positive.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I feel like it's nice to pay a creator, like being part of the creator economy, and like being able to pay a creator directly for what they're doing. It feels good as well. Like that not paying an agency, like, or an actor or a model. Like it feels nice. Like they're actually doing things that they care about, they're passionate about, creating content. Like it takes so much time and effort.
And even working with like the smaller content creators as well.
Some of them influencers.
So some of the influencers, it would be like their first or second campaign. Like some of them didn't even know how to like make an invoice, you know, for us to pay them, because it's the first time they've ever done this kind of content. But because they were so passionate about sustainability, they already had like an inbuilt audience of people who would listen and care. So it's like giving people their first opportunity into kind of this kind of world, and them getting paid for it. They were so like happy, you know. So that was
you sourced the influencers for the campaign. Wow, cool.
And even for them, it's cool that they get to grow their reach then, because then Romy, like So Swim, will like then post them, and then they'll be like, there's a wider reach for them for like sustainability, like or people that are into sustainability, so they'll now follow them. So it's nice like to give like to have that community like feel and know that we were part of it.
And I think that was something we spoke about, that you want to really champion within 112. It's not, because agencies have this kind of reputation of being like competitive battlefields with the other agencies, but what you guys are really trying to do is build community. So how are you doing that?
It's been really interesting, because from the get-go, when we kind of discovered there are other agencies who do what we do, we're like, oh wow, this is great. It's proof of concept. It means that they're making money, they're making it work, so that this thing works. And we would reach out to some, or we'd be in the same place, you know, the same kind of events, and just be really friendly, and we'd just be really friendly with each other, and we would be collaborating. So for example, like oftentimes there's like WhatsApp groups where it's like, oh, we can't fulfill this client need, can you guys do it?
Wow.
And you know, and you know, these are like deals that are worth quite a bit of money, and they're handing over to us and be like, can you guys do it, because we can't do it. And like similarly, like somebody wanted some US influencers recently, and I was just like, look, we can't fulfill that because we don't work with US influencers in that way, but we know someone who does, and it's another like cultural influencer marketing agency who would be our competitor, but we give each other work all the time. And it's really nice to kind of operate like that. And I think it even makes the journey of being business owners less lonely, because you're like, and we're all kind of being very frank with each other. So when we're having quiet times, it's like, is it quiet for you too? It's quiet for us as well, kind of thing. So then you're like, okay, we're not doing something wrong here. It's like the market is quiet. And, you know, and that just gives you that push to keep on going.
And also what you both said about the working with influencers and building up their own profile, like that's also a community in itself. Like the influencers that you work with and building those positive relationships, it's has a ripple effect.
It's interesting because when we first started the agency, I don't think we ever thought about the community aspect of it.
No.
But we are now actively seeking out to ensure that we are growing our community, because it naturally happened. So it naturally happened that we've got a community of competitors, so to speak, who actually do the same thing we do, but we all help each other. Then we've got a community of like all the talent managers and all the influencers and the brands we work with. We've like become, you know, good friends with some of the people we work with. So it's actually like, wow, we're the center of this little community. Like, let's actually start to create something with this, you know, because it shows that a lot of people say when they see us that they're like kind of like, wow, you know, 2 women of colour are like running this agency, and they love to see it, kind of thing. So it's like, oh, maybe there is something here, maybe we should kind of build out this community, but also to help like up and coming generations as well. So one of our big things about it is it's not just to make money and just to like make marketing more fair or more representative. It's actually to practically help young people actually who would feel lonely coming into a creative industry, to know that there are people who have already done it, kind of thing. So a lot of what we do is like not mentoring yet, but kind of like talks and like, you know, go to colleges and give them talks and stuff about like getting into the industry and that they can do it.
I suppose that also links to, I know you recently published an article for Campaign about diversity and inclusion in the creative field, and there was that what was it, according to a study, over half of Black, Asian and majority ethnic professionals are experiencing discrimination in the creative industry, and 85% of the same group are likely to leave the industry due to lack of inclusion. So this isn't an isolated case what you both experienced in different workplaces. This is like nationwide. This is a problem. And to have, as you said, like there aren't even that many people in the industry already. So to have the people that are there leave. That's so... What were you saying in that article? Because I think it was really interesting talking about there's a lot of diversity and inclusion programs, but they're not necessarily working.
Yeah, I mean, the title of it was a bit full on, because it was diversity, do away with the diversity BS and actually truly, you know, include people or something along those lines. But essentially it's that rather than patting ourselves on the back and being like, you know, now we've got a D&I policy, we're doing great. Actually, how are you ensuring that people do feel included? Because diversity is actually a much easier thing to achieve. You can look around an office and you can see that it could be quite diverse. But for similar reasons that I was speaking about earlier, where I said there's times where I was sitting at the desk, you know, in an office and didn't feel like I could speak to anyone or get involved in the conversation. Diversity was there. If you looked at the office, it's diverse. But in terms of inclusion, that's where the issue lies. And it's that lack of inclusion that makes people leave. And it's the reason why I left. It's the reason why G left. And it's the reason why lots of young people of colour are leaving the industry, because of that inclusion side of things. And it's a step further than just recruiting diverse people. It's actually now taking a step further and being like, what are your needs? How can we ensure that you feel that you're part of this company? You know, what is wrong with the way our culture and the way we do things that we can change to ensure that you feel good here and that we can retain you. You know, but yeah, I think that's part of the reason why 85% of people are
100%
wanting to leave.
Because even when you think about like advertising as well, like even from when I was younger, I remember like it's a very like heavy drinking culture, going out and socializing, and like if you're introverted, it doesn't suit you. And I can be quite introverted, so like if you don't go, you feel bad because you're not going, and people are like, why aren't you going? So like there's so many different places that you can feel excluded in different ways. Like say someone's Muslim and they don't drink, then what?
I heard a story about like a social was going and drinking beer in a burger restaurant, like and someone was Muslim on the team, and it's just these things need to be taken into consideration.
It can just be awkward, especially if someone's junior, like they don't want to be like making a fuss or seem like they're making a fuss, so they might just be quiet, or then they might just not go because of it and make an excuse, and then it's like, oh, you've not been to the socials X many times, but it's because they don't feel comfortable and warm. So like I think companies needs to make sure that like even though it's diverse, that people are actually included and feel like comfortable.
And how do you think they
and
do
welcome.
that? You said conversations. Actually,
I think it's just actually asking the question.
What
can we do to, and that's across the board. So I gave a talk recently at an agency, and that's one of the questions one of the CEOs asked, and he was like, how can we? And I was like, just have the conversation. Just like you would with anyone, you know, if you have a friend or you have whatever, a flatmate, and you know there's you want to find out, okay, how can we live together
Yeah.
to ensure that this works? It's the same thing. Just ask the question. And it doesn't necessarily single out the diverse people. I say that in quotation marks. It's more to everyone.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what people are going through. And I always use the example of when we were working at our last agency, I recruited a young man to work with me, and he was white, he was working class, and he didn't come from the same background as most other people who worked in the team, because the team, it was a very middle class agency. Most people are middle class in this kind of industry, but he stuck out a lot in terms of not being from the same kind of background, and I recruited him because he had the hunger, the drive, the willingness to learn. He had all of the, but when I recruited him, it was kind of like, you're taking a risk by recruiting this guy. And it's like, well, no, actually. But he had needs that, I want to be like, ensure that I'm not kind of like, but he had needs that other people couldn't understand, but I could.
Okay.
And so because I could understand his needs were just that he was different, right?
Yeah.
And his needs were different things. But I think sometimes when you're different,
it makes you
be able to see somebody else more.
You have empathy
so
as
I
well.
feel like I saw him more than anybody else because I could see his needs.
Yeah.
But the other people were kind of like impatient with him, and they were like, he's not doing a good enough job, XYZ. But it's like, no, he's got specific needs to his home environment and that kind of thing. That means that he doesn't feel like he's included as well. So actually, if it's that across the board, we say to everyone, regardless of their background, their race, their gender, whatever it may be, what can we do to ensure that you're included, that you feel like you're a part of this company, that you're adding to this culture, not trying to mould to the culture.
Yeah.
That's another thing as well.
That's a main thing.
Then I think we'll get a bit closer.
Yeah.
And I think conversations in non-intimidating ways, like, you can't just be like, okay, cool, there's that junior person who's, something's happening there, come in and chat to me, I'm the CEO, like, what, like, it can't be like that. It has to be like, maybe like start with like anonymous box or something, or a place where you can send an anonymous like message or anonymous survey or something where you can actually get their true feelings, or maybe they speak to like somebody outside the organization that's like doing like a change survey or something, because people aren't going to be honest if they feel intimidated, or they feel like it means they're going to lose their job or something.
Yeah,
like
be treated unfairly.
Yeah,
or
you're
something.
not.
True.
Like, so many times people don't tell the truth because of that.
True. And then, like you said, they'll just withdraw.
Yeah.
Like, feeling lonely and marginalised at work, you're actually less likely to engage in all the different things that could potentially lead to getting a promotion.
Exactly.
And, like, I was thinking even about socials. Like, you could have a box where everyone puts in ideas for a work social, and then you put like the ones that people vote, and if someone, and you can comment like, this wouldn't work for me because I don't drink. Can we do it something that's like, I don't know, exercise or instead, or during the day, even like if people have children, it shouldn't be in the evening then because that's going to be difficult. I think these conversations, and that's the thing that I found so interesting about your article. People, it's quite easy to organise one seminar on diversity inclusion, but like having a holistic relook at your company is what people really need to do, 100%. And at their employees' individual needs.
Meet them where they are.
I think that we have a long way to go
so far.
Have you spoken to other people in the creative industry who have experienced the same as what you've experienced, like feeling lonely and marginalised?
I know it's going to sound crazy, right? But I feel like anyone who, from my experience, anyone who's black feels the same.
Really?
Yeah. I can't think of any black person that I know in the creative industry who doesn't have those feelings, or hasn't at least experienced those feelings. I think there are a few agencies now. I mean, I've never worked client side as well, so it could be completely different brand side. But from the agency perspective, I think most people do feel like this.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Like, from like people of colour that I've met that have worked in creative agencies, like along my whole journey of like working in advertising, like it's been the same. You all end up like grouping together and like becoming friends, like even without like meaning to do it. It just becomes a thing where like people of colour like get closer and become friends because of like the shared experiences, and they feel like they can't say it to other people because, again, and you want to you want to make sure that you're verifying like your experience, like, am I being crazy, or like
it's actually
it's actually happening,
what I'm feeling is actually
so then it ends up becoming a thing of like, you end up forming groups like or friendship groups like with other people of colour. It's always happened for me in every single agency, pretty much.
Can you see progress being made, or do you think?
I don't, because the problem is with 85% of people of diverse people wanting to leave.
Where do they go?
Like us, set up their own things.
Yeah.
a lot of people are setting up their own things or freelancing. I mean,
a lot of people are freelancing.
Yeah.
That's a trend I've seen with a lot of people I know who worked in advertising and are of colour. They're freelancing.
Yeah. So I think that's what people are doing, which is it's great in the sense of entrepreneurialism, but it's entrepreneurism itself is a privilege to be able to do. Because when you're not being able to pay yourself a wage, if you have to pay rent or your mortgage or whatever it may be, you've got caretaking responsibilities or whatever that may be. That is in itself a privilege to be able to step out and create your own business. So some people probably are just trapped in jobs that they want to maybe do their own agency or whatever it may be, but they can't. So there's what we need is not kind of, I don't think we should celebrate people leaving and doing their own thing but actually create environments where they can be a part of the system and grow and feel comfortable in those places. And if they do want to, because I feel that we set up our own thing out of more necessity for our mental health than desire to do it.
And I think like maybe there was a place of business where it was like one homogenized culture, and that was what, like you said, you either fit in or you don't, and then you just feel isolated if you don't. But we need to get to a place where everyone can share their views, and because everyone's experience at work is going to be different, and have those open conversations.
And I think it doesn't have to, because the thing is, I don't think it will ever get perfect.
No.
But if you know that you're in a place that's striving to do better every day, then that's all you can ask. You know, we're not expecting it to be perfect, and no one's going to talk about like the shampoo they use and that leaves you out. Of course not. That's unrealistic, of course. But if you know that like everyone's striving to do better, then that's even a step closer than where we are now.
Or you feel like you can share your opinion and you can share your view, because as long as you feel like you're being heard, I think you can be in a completely... Everyone can be different. Like if you feel like you can be yourself, or you can bring parts of yourself to work and not just cut them off. That's what I think can be so lonely. When you have to pretend to be someone else.
Well, code switching is...
That's
What's that?
Code switching, I'm sorry if it's not a proper definition because I don't know entirely. My interpretation is essentially switching the way you talk, the way you act, maybe the way you dress, to be more palatable in a white-centric environment. That's what code switching is, I think.
That is it,
It doesn't necessarily be white-centric, but it's just because where we are. So, for example, like, I've got a very South London accent. So in certain environments, I will change it completely so that it's nearly masked kind of thing. That would be what code switching is. It's that kind of thing. Or maybe like I'm wearing braids, right? But I hardly ever wore any kind of black natural hairstyles for the majority of my career, because code switching means have straight long hair, flowy hair. That's more acceptable. People understand that.
And even at school, you're not allowed to have
in some
certain
schools,
types of hair.
In some schools,
which is ridiculous.
Like the thing is obviously Afro hair grows up; it doesn't grow down, right? It just naturally grows to the heavens. So if one person can come out of the house and have their hair out and it goes down because of gravity, why can't the other person have their hair out if it naturally just grows up? Why can't we just have our hair in our natural forms? But I mean, there's all of that. There's even the loneliness around hair for black women. No, that's a whole...
In what way?
So for example, right? So in order to... The fact that you can't just wake up, wash your hair and go to work, for example, as a black woman, because it's not deemed... The way it will look is not deemed to be professional. Then you've got to go through the whole thing of like hairdresser's appointments or like doing this stuff. And so you're spending like an hour or two on your hair a day, spending hundreds of pounds a month on your hair just to make it look...
Maintain the...
to have a certain look that you're then going to be palatable at work, and someone's not going to say you're being, you don't look professional or you look messy. Like, that's very isolating in itself. And my daughter is 4, and my mum was kind of braiding her hair yesterday, and she was braiding it to keep it neat for school this week. It stays in so the braid style will stay in from Monday to Friday, right? And she was, because of the way it is, it hurts a little bit.
Like, it's tight.
It's tight. So it hurts her scalp. And so she was like crying, and I was like, I wish I could just let her wear her hair out. Like, I wish it was socially acceptable and fine. No, because all the kids have to have their hair tied back because of what knits. Is it? Knits.
Knits. Okay.
But I was just like, I wish it was socially acceptable that she could just be free. Just be free. But it's just one of those things. it's not.
Yeah, but code switching is a thing. Like, even at the last place we worked at, I heard someone had said that I don't present like I'm senior, and since from then I felt I already feel uncomfortable like presenting kind of thing. Although I don't feel uncomfortable when it's our own company, so maybe that is like says it all really. I always felt kind of uncomfortable doing it, and when I heard that just made me more uncomfortable, and I just felt very self-conscious when I was presenting now. And I think it's because of like the way I speak as well. Like, I don't speak like maybe how the rest of the people in the senior team spoke, so maybe that comes across a certain way. I could be quite introverted, so I'm not like really loud, and I have my own way of presenting. But I think even that is not normalised. Like, at the agency, they used to have a problem if someone was more introverted, and they used to see it as a problem. But I used to think, like, I don't understand, like, people are people, like, the different roles suit different people. Like, if you've got a data scientist, like, they tend to be more introverted. That's the way it is. Like, I don't understand what the problem is with that.
That's what makes a great team.
Yeah,
everyone having different.
Yeah. Why is it seen as a bad thing? Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, even little things like that. Like, someone wouldn't realise that them saying that has made me feel a certain way. It stuck with me. I'm still with it now. They don't realise, and that makes you definitely feel lonely, because I felt really like uncomfortable to present after that.
Yeah, and I think if it's something that if the person who said it just took a moment to think, okay, why do I think that? Why do I think that about her?
Yeah.
What does it say about me more so than her? Like, because I think people don't look at from their own. People, obviously, we all have like viewpoints in life and that kind of thing, right? But actually, if you put yourself in someone else's shoes a little bit and be like, well, why is that person introverted? Why is that person? Why do I think that person doesn't present in the way that I think they should present?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on with that person? Kind of put yourself in their shoes. And I think even with the young guy that I was telling you, talking about earlier, who was in my team and he was going through stuff, all I could do is put myself in his shoes, and I'll be like, his behaviour is perfectly reasonable for someone who's going through that.
100%.
But I think sometimes if you don't ever have to put yourself in someone else's shoes, or you don't necessarily have struggles that make you different, and you don't have that element of loneliness because your whole identity makes you different from everybody else around you, it's hard to empathise, I think, with people who are different.
And I think that we need more training on this. Like, managers need to be more compassionate and empathic and understanding, because you've got a team of people who are all going to be going through different things. And even if you look at like the mental health statistics at the moment in the UK, we have the most people ever off work sick for an extended period of time. Like, that's pandemic, that's burnout, that's stress, that's loneliness, that's a lot of different things. But what that needs is compassionate and understanding managers.
I think the problem with the advertising and kind of marketing industry is that people aren't trained to be managers. A lot of the time people are just, you've been here long enough, or you've done enough, you've served especially agency side, like, you've been in the senior account exec for a certain amount of time, now we're going to make you an account manager, and you'll have like a few account execs under you. But there's no training in terms of people management, people skills, empathy, and also not everybody is supposed to be managers. Like, not everybody has 100%. A personality type that means that they would be a good manager, and they could be an amazing colleague, an amazing person, but the stress of them being a manager on top of doing their day job, some people just, that's not the way that they're designed. So I think that firstly, it's two things. The way to grow in a company shouldn't always be to promote to be a manager. I think
it's true.
That penalises, because I was listening to a podcast recently, and one of the, I think it was Spotify, I think it's from, no, not Spotify, Shopify. And what he was saying was that he's the president of Shopify, and what he was saying was that some people just aren't supposed to be managers. But yet still, they can be promoted as like, they become like a really niche specialist in one thing.
For that function or whatever.
So for that function. So they're still promoted, and they're still getting higher salaries and getting more responsibility. But it just means they don't have a team underneath them, because some people aren't made to have teams.
Some people aren't as compassionate or empathic. Yes, you can train it, but if you're not actually skilled in managing people.
They have no people skills. Like, you're right. Not everyone's made to be a manager.
No, but it's true that is like the trajectory
that
people follow.
But the thing is, like, so for myself, I would say I feel like I'm a natural leader. I've kind of just always been. However, in terms of a manager, because they're two different things, right? In terms of a day-to-day manager, it's not really my sweet spot. It's kind of like, so I remember even I said to G, like, when we recruit people, G's very empathetic. Like, she's got a lot of time for people, and like, I'm just like, let's grow this business, let's make the business like, you know, amazing kind of thing, right? But it complements each other. So even with our new recruit, like G line manages her, and it's like that works really well, because actually G's got more of the like, empathy, and I've got the self-awareness to be like, I don't have that same level of empathy for someone like a junior member to join our team. you do that, I'll kind of do something else kind of thing, right? And I think if more people had maybe self-awareness that of what their strengths are in terms of how they relate to people, maybe things will be a bit better for all kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, people don't have that awareness of themselves, I think. Like, of course, like, no one has all the awareness. Like, there's things that I might not see about myself, but yeah, it's having the awareness and empathy. Like, you never know what someone's going through. Like, the things I've found out sometimes what people are going through after, like, explains so much, and it's just like you never know what they could be going through. So you should always speak to the person.
Yeah,
true.
And treat everyone with kindness.
Yeah,
because you just don't know what people are going through.
And I think it's twofold. It's like the self-awareness on an individual level of like, these are my qualities, and then the awareness of a business to be like, okay, we need to look inward and deal with this as a holistic thing. How can we ensure that employees feel safe, feel included, and feel able to share their opinion, like in an environment that isn't going to punish them for that? Because I think you said, so many people at work probably feel like they can't like tell, like, even I think if, especially in a smaller company, if you don't have like an occupational health department, how can you tell
gonna do that
you're not feeling well, or you need some time off, or you need extended leave, all of that.
Like, how are you going to speak to your manager about that, especially if they're that person that's not empathetic and they have no people skills? Like, how are you supposed to tell them like how you're actually feeling about them? It's awkward. How are you going to do that?
So how have you guys taken all this experience and then implemented that in 112 to create like this more inclusive and positive workplace?
So we were speaking about it recently, like last week, with the new person who's joined the company, and she was saying actually it's the least toxic place.
Oh, well done!
And it's like the happiest she's ever been in her job, kind of thing.
Wow.
And I think what we've done, I mean, we're a small team, right? So and things can kind of get a bit difficult the bigger you grow, of course. But as a small team, we're very like honest with each other. So we're very transparent with each other in terms of like what's going on, what people are going through. We give each other kind of time to be. So like, for example, like I might be like, right guys, I've got so many things going on. Can you just please kind of like carry the mantle until I can come and pick it back up again? And they will. Whereas I think in more traditional workplaces, you don't even have that transparency. And there's also like the idea of, oh, now I've got to do more work, you know, because that person's slacking. When actually that person's just going through something.
I feel like me and Hannah are really good at that as well. Like, and I really appreciate it because sometimes I have like mentally low days where I just can't do certain things. And like in a traditional role, I could never say that. Maybe you would have to make something up and say you're feeling sick, or you just have to continue and work and be struggling. But with Hannah, I can just tell her and she'll understand. She'll be like, take the time you need. And then for me, that's better because I'm not just doing like half-assed like job at something or half-hearted job like because I'm struggling. I'll come back and I'll do it better because then I know that I'm feeling good now. So it's just being able to do that. And like even with like certain pitches, like it can be quite lonely and frustrating, like when it's supposed to be a yes or you're supposed to be get a piece of work and you don't. And sometimes like, I take that and it just like it annoys me and it sits with me. So I think being honest, like not only with Hannah but also with Cameron, like the person we work with, like when we have our meetings, I was like, guys, I'm struggling, like I just can't get past this, I'm still thinking about it. Like whereas if you're a manager, like other people might not do that to the person that's like in their team that they're line managing, because they might think it's going to make them look vulnerable. But for me, it's important that I do it because then I know that she knows that she can do it, and we're all human. Like I'm not untouchable because like I'm her manager, like I can still have those feelings, and it makes you feel better because then we all spoke about it, and then after we spoke about it, I felt better about it. So
and we're not machines, like
we're not
your
machines.
work is not going to be like a constant steady like chug. It's like ebbs and flows. And I definitely think being able to be vulnerable as a manager, that is, it's so brave, but it creates a culture of people being open at work.
To know that you can do that, to know that, okay, if I'm feeling a bit off about something, I don't have to pretend that, oh my gosh, it's okay, it's all going to be okay. Like I can actually feel sad that we didn't win that pitch, or I can actually feel low about that, or I can have a day where I'm feeling mentally low and mention it without being judged or feeling like you're not capable of like working, or you're being lazy. Like I think me and Hannah have got that, like from the get-go, when it was just us two, we've been like that. So and
she's going to continue. With the bigger the team gets, we'll keep on just keeping that same kind of culture of just being open and transparent.
Also, we spend so much of our lives at work. Like if you can't be open and honest at work and
Yeah.
bring parts of yourself to work, or like your whole self to work,
100%.
then you're spending most of your life just like hiding and wearing a mask and pretending that things are okay. And that's draining.
And I feel like if you create that nice environment where people actually want to come to work and they enjoy it, like they'll do more, as in not do more like as in you'll get more out of them, but like they'll perform better, their productivity will be better, like they'll actually be enjoying it, you'll all be having fun together, like it'll feel like your little family kind of thing, like it's just for the better. Like,
do you guys work together from home, or do you do things as a team ever to kind of bond?
We're hybrid, so we work from home and we also work in like a shared workspace kind of thing. So when we work on a shared workspace, like we always get lunch together, for example. That's just like our little thing that we do. And like we take the hour and actually speak to each other and, you know, talk about things. We also like check in every day as like a team because we're small, but it just helps to kind of set the tone for the day and you know, just if there's anything that anyone needs help with or anything like that, it's kind of, so yeah, we do make an effort to ensure that we kind of check in with each other because obviously you are working from home and that can get lonely. So yeah, we check in and then like we're trying to plan. G and I spend a lot of time because we're friends as well as business partners. We spend a lot of time anyway together, like you know, going out yesterday or whatever. Like we might be like, oh, do you want to go out for a drink on Friday or whatever it may be. So and similarly with our new team member, like we're planning socials and we're doing stuff like that as well. So
do you think being hybrid's important?
Yeah, I think that FaceTime as a team is important, and what we tend to do is we do our creative brainstorms together as much as we can. So when we're kind of putting together pictures and stuff, when we're doing our kind of the creative brain dump parts, we like to do that together as much as we can.
And I feel like it's just nice to like have those moments where like you're not working and you're going to the kitchen to make a coffee together and then you end up chatting about something random, like, oh, look at that mug, it's really cool. Do you know what I mean? Like you just end up like doing little things which you'll never do on a Zoom. Because it's meeting and then you might chat of course about other stuff, but it's not the same. It's just like, it's nice to get to know the person like in person.
So how many days do you do in the office versus?
So currently 1 day in the office, 4 at home, but we're looking at potentially 2 in the office, and then the rest at home.
No, I think that's definitely important. I can feel when I spend too much time working from home, like you become more disengaged. Just because you don't, and also like you said, like work isn't just you can feel like you're not being that productive, but if you're in the office and you just had loads of conversations with people and you were on your laptop a bit and you achieved like maybe even less than what you do at home, you feel more productive because you're just in that environment and you're having like casual conversations with people, learning more. I read that like for young people starting a new career, there's so much that you learn just from like
100%
coffee chats, just randomly popping into a meeting that maybe you weren't invited to, but someone's
100%.
just networking. That can't happen. Just staring at a screen by yourself. In your
100%. And I think having a start-up and there's not many of us is important because it can get quite lonely. Like, having your own business, like the ups and downs and stuff like that. And like, it can get quite lonely. So I think it's nice to like know that you're all in it together and there's no like hierarchy and there's a safe space to chat about like work and non-work stuff.
So what's next for 112 and for you both?
What's next for you, G?
What's next for me? Next for me in
I always
like
put you
112.
First. I always do that when I'm like,
Hannah does. I don't mind it because Hannah does, but it works. It works. It does work. Hannah's like, what do you think? You know, some of my best answers come out like that, don't they? Have before. I don't know about now. What's next for me?
And the business.
I think we really want to focus on like community building this year. Like that's our main focus.
And making
making money. 100%.
And it's like and
that's the
most. Alone is not gonna make us money.
That's the most important thing because if we don't have the money, there is no community.
And we have no business.
And like we want to show like not show like spotlight other like brands and organizations that are doing cool things and like have it sitting in one place for everyone to like come to as like a portal. And then we've got some like tech things that we're hoping to like build into our company. So I feel like there's a lot.
How are you building community? I see you do I saw the well-being newsletter. I love
that. We've started like a newsletter. We've got like a voice note sessions, which is like a mini podcast that we do. What else are we doing?
So we're building out the website to, as G said, be like a destination, right, where people can come and they can find, if you want to find like creatives in certain spaces. You can find that just to kind of be, because the thing is as well is that a lot of like smaller kind of media publications are closing down, they're not getting the funding and that kind of thing. So we're like, well, as we're building our community, why not kind of just shout out people so that hopefully, you know, and on our kind of email list that we send our newsletter out to, we've got some really strong brands on there. So you never know, by, you know, shouting out a creator or shouting out another business, that could open up opportunities for them. We're very happy to give contacts away. And that's one thing that's part of our community. Like there was one big brand that kind of sit in the black entertainment space, and like a big alcohol brand, and we're just like, oh yeah, we'll introduce you guys, like you can get to know each other kind of thing. And so we're happy to do that. We don't get anything for it, but just to kind of be those cultural kind of connectors and make opportunities for people is super important, and that's what that community is about. Kind of just giving some goodness into the universe.
Yeah,
love it. And your annual party,
and our annual party
on the 1st of December every year.
That's really start thinking about that.
It's gonna fly by. It's gonna come by.
Oh my
so
god,
quick.
don't! I can't believe that was already like 6 months ago.
Oh my god.
And then for the final 2 questions, so we end on 2 questions every podcast, and they are: when did you last feel lonely, and what advice would you give to someone to help them feel more connected?
You're gonna have to do this, Hannah. You can't be like, gee, you're going first now.
I know.
It was coming. It was coming. I know. I was like, Hannah, you take this one now.
What the last time I felt lonely? I think the last time I felt lonely was recently, as in 2 weeks ago to 3 weeks ago. OTA, 112 agency, we've had a very rough patch recently, to the extent where it's like, do we continue? Is how bad it's kind of been. And it's because of things like, we've had so many big brands be like, we want to work with you, get this close to like actually working with us, and then pulling out at the last minute. And so it's really affected us. And we're just like, look, we're a small business, we're trying our best kind of thing. Like, why are you doing this to us, right? And so I think it's kind of got to a point a bit recently where nobody, if you're not in it, you don't understand it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's been very kind of isolating and lonely, kind of like trudging through, always trying to create opportunities, always trying to like be like, where are we going to go next with this thing? What can we do to kind of be innovative? It's constant. So I think that's quite lonely.
And I think being an entrepreneur is lonely.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
running your own business, you don't have that. You don't
If
have
you
anyone
like
else really to turn
security
to
as well.
except for each other.
You don't have a security of like to lean back on, like it's
making all the decisions.
Yeah.
Like you said, searching for all the opportunities. Like, I had someone on the podcast, and he said when he went freelance, that was the time that he found the most lonely, because he went from being in kind of like a cushion of a company that looks after your salary, then looks after your pension, to suddenly being on your own. Like, it has its highs and lows.
I think the highs, just because of the kind of people, I think I can speak for you as well, that we are, the highs still outweigh the lows. But when the lows are low, they're very, very low. And so I think that, I think I put a post on LinkedIn recently where it's like, I've never experienced more failure in my life than since setting up this agency. So I think, and that whole feeling of failure and of keep on trying to push through is what it's been so lonely.
But you can't succeed without failing several
100%.
hundred times.
Because even like the Gymshark guy, like he had 3 businesses before Gymshark that failed, and now he's a billionaire. So it's like you have to remind yourself of these little things. Like,
although we don't want to be
we definitely don't. Millionaire, yes. Billionaire, no.
That's why I think so many people want to start their own business, but they don't, because you have to be so brave, and you have to like ride out the failures and not just let them, because I think anyone who's succeeded in anything has failed way more times than that.
Well, I've had 2 failed businesses so far, so I'm hoping that this will be the
third
time lucky.
So has like Elon Musk and Simon Cowell and like you said, and Francis.
And the KFC guy, my friend was telling me. She was like, that's why he looks so old in the logo, because like he started really old. So like,
he was like 17.
Yeah, so she was like, so she was like, don't give up, like you got this. I was like, oh, okay, then that stuck with me now. I'm like, okay, that's why he looks so old. So,
I
like,
could be the KFC man.
Let's not wait until you're 70 though.
So, what advice would you give to someone to help them feel more connected? G.
Oh, is that for me? I think for me it's being open and honest. So like even if like you feel embarrassed or you feel vulnerable, of course like not sharing everything, like taking small steps, but like if you're open and honest about something, about how you've been feeling, then it gives other people the opportunity to like feel like, oh, they did that, I can do that. So like recently I did a LinkedIn post about like mental health and like certain things that have happened to me, like how it's affected me, and I feel like it's nice because I only got help for my mental health because an employee at work gave a talk on hers and I spoke to her. So if she hadn't done that, I wouldn't have got help. And like, so I think it's nice giving that back to other people, because they might think, oh, I didn't think someone like G would like suffer from like mental health stuff. So it's nice like them seeing me do it, and then hopefully knowing that they can get help, or they can talk to me about it, or they can be brave and like open up and talk about it. So I think, yeah, being open and honest and like vulnerable like helps people be more connected, I think.
Yeah, I think the same thing.
Yeah.
I was actually going to say the same thing. I think it's difficult sometimes as well, because the whole thing with loneliness is that a lot of the time, like, you don't know how to help yourself out of your loneliness.
Yeah.
If you did, of course you would. Nobody wants to be lonely, right? So I think it's quite difficult, because loneliness is like a real thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes loneliness is external factors that you can't change. Like, a lot of my loneliness has come down to the fact I'm a black woman. I can't change that, and I can't change society, kind of thing. But I do think it is similar to what you say. So like, it is hard, but maybe be vulnerable to find your tribe, find the people who actually see you for who you are, who value you for who you are, and that you can be open and honest with. That you can kind of bring your whole selves to, because I think a lot of the time people, no matter kind of their background or whatever, there's environments like work where they can't bring their whole selves. And if that's the case, at least have somewhere where you can be your whole self. You know, around your kind of tribe. Just try and find those people. It's hard, but be vulnerable, I think, and
ask for help when
ask for help.
Ask for help.
Because I feel like a lot of the time people think asking for help, it won't actually help them, but even like a conversation and they've just let out how they feel would help so much, and you feel lighter, even though the other person hasn't necessarily done anything. You just feel better. So I think talking about it, it's not easy, but I feel like doing it in small steps. Like, you might not want to say everything, but even just saying like, oh, I'm not feeling so good at the moment, like, is a massive step maybe for someone. So I think
definitely. Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Such a good conversation.